Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Shepherd Station. We're glad to be back. We are at 24 East Church Street. We're at the Stockyard in Headland, Alabama. Come by and see us. We have great sandwiches, great food, good people to hang out with. Hey, come by. It's summertime. Come by and get one of these Lotus energy drinks.
They're delicious.
They are delicious. They're refreshing. It actually helped to get me off of the canned energy drinks that you get from the convenience stores and what have you. And energy is based off of, it's a plant-based energy, green coffee beans, super fruits. It's a whole lot better for you. Come by and grab one. We think you'll love it. With me today is Thomas over here. Andy's not in here with us, but he is with us. We're going to have him for a little while. He's going to have to step off shortly after, but I got somebody sitting in over here too that we've had before. Marcus Brigman is back, and we've got some stuff to talk about today over the most recent event. And we think it's pertinent, and we think that we need to discuss it. But the Trump assassination attempt, we really kind of want to dive into that and give what we think about it from a law enforcement perspective and from guys that have been in similar operations. So with that, we're going to jump right into that. Andy, I want to get your take on some of the stuff that has taken place. So go ahead, man.
Yeah, I think there were definitely some things that were done wrong and some things maybe that were not done. Back in 2015, when I was chief of tactical operations with the state, Obama came to Selma for the 50th anniversary of the bridge crossing in Selma. And that was a major event. We had quite a few members of Congress come down also, and all of our state resources, local resources were used to secure different highways and structures and that kind of thing. So, and I know that President Trump, not being current president, but being in the role of a candidate, did not have as much protection. But, you know, when you've got a venue like that, especially an open air venue, there is a lot to consider when you go in and do an advance work, and then you try to secure everything around there. And the Secret Service, I understand, could not secure all of this by themselves. They had to have the help of local law enforcement. My first, if I was Secret Service, my first call would have been to the Pennsylvania State Police, and try to secure as many personnel from Pennsylvania State Police as I possibly could to secure the outer perimeter. You in an event like this, you've got what they call concentric rings of security. You've got really close security, and you've got some a little bit further out, some a little bit further out, and then you got another ring that's farther south. And an outdoor venue like that, you've got to consider, somebody who might be an expert marksman, a true sniper, could take a shot from, up to 1,000 yards. Possibly. Easily. So you've got to secure a lot of ground there. Yeah.
So one thing to look at is, so I've graduated, a basic sniper school. My buddy sitting here on the side of me here has been through basic and advanced sniper operations. And so when you look at it from that standpoint, there's things that you look for, and I guess I need to preface this too. We're not, on this show, we're not blaming anybody. We're not saying that anybody did anything wrong. We're not saying that it's some kind of conspiracy theorist, rhetoric going on here. But there's a whole lot of this that doesn't smell right to me. It kind of stinks if you be honest with
smells bad, it stinks. That's
it just downright stinks. But like looking at it like that,
it's like I told somebody yesterday, I guess it was, the biggest failure in this whole thing was not the counter sniper teams or anything like that. The biggest failure was not, what they should have done, that particular building, they should have searched that building inside and out, and then should have secured that building where nobody could enter the building. And then you lock it down by putting somebody or multiple officers on that particular building to make sure nobody could access the roof of the building. I don't know where the ladder came from. I saw some video of the ladder, and the ladder was kind of in a secluded area where you might not be able to see it. But if somebody was doing an advance on that building and that ladder was already there, then they should have definitely found the ladder there and removed the ladder.
Okay, and again, like I said, we don't have all of the information that is out there, but we've got the stuff that has been coming out on, either social media or news or whatever source is coming out. So there's a lot of things to look at here. I've got questions as to, all right, so the actual counter snipers, the one that took the shot, has come out and stated that he was told to stand down and not fire
I don't believe that.
for 3 minutes. Now, whether it happened, that's the statement that he's
That's
come
the
out and
story.
said. That's the
Well,
story.
I don't believe that's factual. I think that's fake news myself.
You think that's fake
I think
news?
that guy. If you're part of an investigation such as this, you're going to be told you don't talk to the media, you don't talk to anybody else.
That's true.
And you would be immediately fired.
Immediately,
You know,
on the
if you
spot.
if you did come out and do something like that. You know,
And I
second
hope
of all,
you're right. I hope you're right.
second of all, people have this fallacy about this green light with a sniper. That's a Hollywood fallacy.
It is
No
100%.
sniper waits for a green light from anybody.
Not
to
with
take
an
a
imminent
human life.
threat. Not with an imminent
if
threat.
If somebody's in danger, you
If you
get
can
the green light
articulate those
beforehand. You
facts.
get rules of engagement beforehand,
Absolutely.
and you've got the green light beforehand to take out anybody who might be a threat. It's just, I've used the example before. If I walk into a convenience store and there's an armed robbery in progress, and the bad guy's got a gun pointed at the clerk, I'm not going to get my radio and call my sergeant and say,
Hey, can I shoot this guy?
"Hey, can I shoot this guy? He's holding a gun on this."
Well, I
convenience
have
store clerk. Can I kill him?
I have an actual prime example of a story you told, Andy, about the guy that was in the trailer, right, with the shotgun.
Yeah, he didn't wait for you to say shoot him.
Yeah, that sniper, right?
Yeah.
He didn't wait for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's
there
what
was
I go back
there was
to.
a danger presented to someone, and
Exactly.
he took the shot.
Yeah.
So the story that we've received is that, all right, and whether we have to decipher what may or may not be correct. And Andy, you are 100% correct. That could be fake news, could be 100%. On the off chance that it's not, then if that is true, and this guy's statement that he put out is actually his statement, then there's a failure there. Because, I mean, that goes back to basic policing under federal guidelines for use of force. If there's a deadly imminent threat, you don't wait. You have to act.
It's all in articulation. If you can articulate, it's like
If this
exigent
guy-
circumstances.
If this guy did what they all said he did, and he pointed a weapon at law enforcement, or even the fact that he was on the roof and they've identified a guy on the roof with a weapon, I don't see that sniper saying, "Well, let me call and see if I can fire."
level of force has been met.
Yeah, it's been met. You're going to eliminate the threat.
There's no third direction.
So that is a question. Is that a true statement that has come out in the news because it has come out, or is that fake news?
Yeah, I've also seen some talk here, heard some talk that local law enforcement was tasked with locking down that building and securing it. And then when this guy got on top of the building, and even when they heard that somebody was on top of the building and they identified that there was somebody on top of the building with a rifle,
nothing
it was taking them a little time to try to deconflict to make sure that it was not one of the local law enforcement on top of the building.
Yeah.
Also,
He's got-
and that's what caused the
tan clothes
delay.
on
But,
and shorts. It's
but,
not your
you know,
typical security uniform.
yeah, but and the
But
thing
we
about it
can't
is,
see.
you're not going to
That makes
put a law enforcement officer with a rifle on top of that building after the fact. That would have been established, way prior to the rally even beginning. He would have been in position there.
There you go.
so-
And that goes back to that. Marcus and I were talking about that just prior to you coming, getting on screen. You got a big rally, and I get it. He's not the president right now.
He's entitled to every bit of protection, though.
He is a former president, and he is a current presidential candidate. So this
Yeah,
is
and he's
going to
got
be a big,
and
This
the
is gonna
threats
be a-
against him too are
they're
pretty
outside.
real.
Well,
Amazing.
once you're president, you have Secret Service around you the rest of your life.
You can
Right.
choose
Even
to,
former.
You can
It's
choose
just
to
not a
do
very
that.
big
It's
detail.
an option.
Oh, it's
But,
optional.
yeah.
I thought it was like
and it's not as big a detail.
okay.
Um,
Now
But
something
see,
I do want
hold on, let
to
me finish
ask
here.
real quick.
So what we were talking about, though, before we go any farther, is this is a big event. So to go with what you said, see, because the information that I've seen, most of what I've seen is they quote, that building wasn't secured or cleared. Now you're going to have this massive ops plan prior
Total
to,
security failure.
and
Total.
that building is going to be included in it up to a certain range, and everything around there, you're going to have cleared, secured, lockdown, and personnel more than likely there. Marcus, I mean, you've done ops plans for that.
Yes, absolutely. And the thing that bothers, I am made out of questions about this. This guy had way too much intel for his ingress route. I don't know what his exit plan was, if he had one, but he had way too much information on his route to all the way up to taking the shot. It does not make sense. I'm a logical person. I would like to think I am. And it makes 0 sense. Somebody's just going to whip that plan out of their back pocket and be like, hey, I'm going to do this. And it worked.
You mean to tell me this 20-year-old guy,
Yeah.
for whatever ties he had to whatever group, I've heard different stories, was able to outsmart state, local law enforcement to include federal Secret Service?
And why are you not going to put something that's somebody within pistol range? That's literally pistol range for, I know me and him and probably you. You're a decent shot, Andy. But the thing that bothers me is that guy was within small pistol range, and nobody was on the roof. They didn't check. They didn't clear. I have a problem with all that. I mean, it doesn't add up. The math don't work.
Yeah. Well, you started hearing the first of a bunch of conspiracy theories to start with, but I don't think if the deep state was going to try to take out Donald Trump, I just don't really believe that they would have used this individual to try to do it. I think this guy was I think this guy was radicalized, probably online mostly. I think whenever they get into his social media and all his phone messages and all, they're going to, get a lot of information. But
Marcus
I don't believe this guy was hired by the deep state to take out Donald Trump.
You don't think this is?
I mean, this guy was not. This guy was not a trained sniper. He
No.
no
think the
military
deep state
experience
could
or
do it a
anything
little
like
better.
that. So
Yeah, I think they could probably come up with a better plan. Probably a
Something I
car
found-
accident or something like that. But
Something I found
Yeah.
not amusing but interesting. If I read this correctly, if it's factual, his father bought him the rifle.
yeah, it
No,
was
it
bought
was-
legally by his father.
yes, but now how he
Okay.
obtained it. What I was told is how he obtained it. Didn't know if he had access to it or didn't know if he stole it. But again, we're going to start getting into the 2A side of this. Well, you need to
Yeah,
lock your
you
weapons up. Look, if this guy was never on the radar for anything, he's 20 years
Mm-hmm.
old,
No
he's
reason to
legal.
be on
There's
the
no
radar.
reason to sit there and say, okay,
Yep.
listen, and bringing a 2A thing into this, like they're trying to do, it's irrelevant.
And his parents are certified counselors, according to
Now, I did
the
hear
last
that,
reports
yes.
I read. So we know now this does not work. When you have a domestic, call a counselor. Don't call the law. We are going in a bad direction in this country on things like that.
I agree.
But we can go down that rabbit hole deep.
I'm sorry. I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. No,
Let's go
you're
back to
good.
your
We were
question.
all trying to say the same thing at the same time. I mean, you pretty much answered what I was going to ask, but like on a roof like that, I mean, it's just surprising to me that there was nobody already on that roof. That there was no like what you guys already said. I was just going to ask, like, why wasn't there already somebody up there that would have seen this kid? Like, because I like thinking about it from a civilian standpoint. If I was one of the snipers on the other side, right, that we have all these pictures of those two sitting there, I would have just assumed that they did have somebody on that roof over there. If you could see it, you know what I mean? Like I would have just assumed, like, oh yeah, maybe they didn't take the shot so quick because they were like, that has to be.
I believe that that's going to be what's leading into all this. Everybody has this conspiracy theory about, well,
It's complacency.
The Secret Service was involved in it, or the deep state was involved in it. Blah blah blah. Worthy? I don't know.
I think there was a lot of
But that's
complacency there.
is it complacency or
I'm thinking
Is it something
complacency just because they're like, oh my God, the building's right there. There ain't nobody going to get on top.
Right, yeah, like that's literally your
know,
thinking is like there has to be
because-
somebody on top of that building.
Without
Very well could've
giving
been.
away any of the TTPs that people use, we have
That's
those
training.
layers, those concentric layers of security, and that is a massive security failure to not clear something 139 yards away from your HVT. That's
you know
maybe
what
a bad
TTPs
term to
are?
use.
No clue. I mean,
High
I know
value
what
target.
TP is.
High value target.
TTPs or techniques, tactics, and procedures?
Got it. Got it.
That's how you do
Techniques,
things.
procedures.
Yeah.
Another thing that's being put out there also, and I think some of this might have come from Dan I got my tongue tied there.
Bongino?
Dan Bongino, who's former
He's the
Secret
man.
Service, but that maybe the counter sniper team or some of the counter sniper team personnel were actually on loan from HSI, Homeland Security.
They were.
And they were
There
not
was a
full-time
lot of
Secret
HSI
Service.
guys there.
Yeah, I saw that where they're not Secret Service; they were somebody else. Dan Bongino is really, really blasting this.
Yeah.
This
He
is
is.
a major failure.
He is.
Yeah, he's former Secret Service. Yeah.
Yeah, so he's got insight into it, and I as well believe that it was a major failure on the part of the Secret Service. Now, I've never, that's the only time I ever worked with the Secret Service was on a counterfeit case, and that's the only time I've ever had any experience with Secret Service. I didn't have, interactions with these guys like I did with the FBI, the DEA, ATF. So I can't sit there and say what their procedures would have been. You have more knowledge on that, Andy, than any of us
Yeah.
here. But I do see many failures that took place. And again, I go back to the 3-minute window. Is it true? Is it not? I really hope it's not true. I really hope that we had
Well,
you're
let's-
talking about tip of the spear guy, right?
Yeah.
Federal, Secret Service, he's on a protective detail. This guy's supposed to be one of the best. And you're trying to sell the whole, well, he had to ask permission to shoot an imminent threat. I really hope that's not true.
I'm disagreeing with that. 10,000%.
Because again, here's the other question.
We just had
If
this
for
conversation.
3 minutes you're sitting there telling this guy to stand down, or for 3 minutes they know they're trying to identify whether or not there's a viable threat on this roof, why is the former president still on stage?
Have you guys seen the video that people were taking from the grassy field?
That's what I was just going to get into. Is like how
When they're telling people, hey, there's a guy up there with a gun, there's a guy
Yeah.
up on the roof, and people are walking around like it's nothing. I have an issue with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, how are they yelling that? How can you just, because we talk all the time. It's like, oh, don't say bomb, don't say these things. Your phone's
Yeah.
gonna, like you're gonna get taken out.
You
all
said
this.
bomb in an airport.
Yeah,
Just
right.
because you blew the
know?
bathroom up,
It's like how many? Yeah, and that's just from one event from 9/11, right? Like how many assassination attempts in our history have we had, or even close to, that it would not warrant if somebody was yelling gun or yelling these things from a crowd in front of a former president, that you wouldn't say, you know what?
You're going to wrap up the primary. You're
That's something that is weird too, man. It really is, because these guys are all sitting there going, hey, he's on the roof, he's got a gun, and everybody's walking around like it's
like it's a day at the fair.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
One
I do
thing
not-
one thing I want to bring up too is communication.
Oof.
Typically, and I'll tell you what should have happened. Now, local law enforcement was on a totally different frequency than the Secret Service,
I was getting ready to
and probably
mention that.
even Pennsylvania State Police. And
Right.
I'm not trying to debunk any conspiracy stuff or anything, but I'm just saying there is a delay in communication from the time somebody's trying to tell some local cop, and then he's trying to check it out to see if what they're saying is true, and then he's trying to
relay that
relay it.
information.
Now, the Secret Service command element at this event should have had one of the local radios in their command post,
They will not share
so they can
comms
receive
with
communications.
other
But
people.
you just can't count on that.
No, you can't.
Communications, police communications are, they wanted, this big word for the last 15 years have been interoperability. Interoperability is an oxymoron when it comes to law enforcement communications, because all law enforcement cannot communicate with each other in this country.
after everything that you and I did on anything that we were on together or anything that we worked, in conjunction with, what was always the first thing to fail?
Yeah, communications.
Communications.
It is.
So you are right. I mean, that's one of the things, especially when you're having, 3, 4, 5 different agencies trying to all work in tandem with each other.
Y'all remember?
That's tough.
And I know y'all do. It's a rhetorical question. Y'all remember Hurricane Katrina?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is when I was working in Tennessee at the sheriff's office. They selected 3 of us from our department to go down there to render aid, help out security, whatever, law enforcement. That's when they come out with a nationwide. Everybody needs to be on the same sheet of music, because you had 100 departments down there, all different frequencies, channels, all that stuff. Nobody could talk to anybody. So that's when we went to this. My department went to this new trunking system. At the time, it was new. It's not new anymore. But I could drive from Tennessee to Oklahoma, and each jurisdiction I went through, I could talk to every jurisdiction that I drove through, because we had that commonality of that frequency.
Yeah.
And that's
But,
what it was
only if
designed
those other jurisdictions had that commonality also.
for. Absolutely.
Yeah.
You got to be a team player on that one.
Yeah.
But
Well, that's what the P25 system was meant to do,
Yeah.
was to create
That's what I was trying to
interoperability
think of what it
between
was called.
agencies throughout the United States, not just law enforcement, but also fire and rescue,
The
also.
problem with P25 though is it was so expensive that not every law enforcement agency could afford it.
Yeah, especially small agencies.
Yeah, especially small agencies, they
You
just
know,
couldn't afford it.
Another point, guys, and I got to get off here in just a minute, but another thing, I thought the Secret Service was kind of slow in getting Trump off the stage myself. You know, okay, cover him. I think they were getting word that, shooters down, but you don't know that there's not multiple shooters. And as soon as they covered him, the initial threat was over with. I think they should have, there were 4 there. They should have picked him up under the arms and legs and carried him off the stage immediately in a vehicle. And you should have been like running over people trying to get out of that venue and head towards the designated, medical facility.
Or off the back of the
there's
platform.
already a designated medical facility. They don't just like, okay, which hospital are we going to now? These
have a
advanced
trauma center set
operations,
up.
a minimum of 3 days prior to this event happening. They're going to figure out where the hospital's at so they know. And everything the Secret Service does should be reflexive at that point. They know exactly where they're going. They know what vehicle they're getting in. They know what medical facility they're going to, all that kind of stuff. And they should even have personnel at that particular medical facility waiting just in case something does happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, everything that's like, there were former Secret Service agents that got on and talked about this event and stuff like that. And all the ones I've heard have said that they went textbook. I mean, it was textbook, like when they watched it with Trump. So apparently they did exactly what they were expected to do.
They have rewritten the book.
But
Well, they
maybe it's
covered him,
not.
definitely. They
No.
covered him
I'm
the way
talking
he
about
should have been covered.
textbook. Yeah, I'm talking
I
about
just thought
textbook
they
when
should
it
have
came
got
to
him off
Trump.
the stage and off the
Yeah.
X a little
Well,
quicker.
there's 2 things there. Do
Yeah,
you
that's
think-
possible,
Do you
yeah.
think that might have had to do with the fact that he was adamant he was going to stand up and pump his
That's
fist in
what
the air?
I'm wondering.
And
What was he
or
telling them?
Could it also
Yeah.
be the fact that they weren't actually Secret Service agents? They were more, other.
Well, no,
federal agents?
the team on him, what they call the shift, the ones that regularly cover him all the time, then those individuals there were all Secret Service.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would lend more to it being Trump wanted to stay up there and pump his fist.
Yeah.
It quite possibly could have been. The thing about it is, if you remember, back in 1912, Teddy Roosevelt was running for president, and he was about to give a speech, and he had a copy of the speech in his jacket or his shirt pocket. And when the guy shot him, it went through the speech while he was talking, or he was about to speak, and actually entered his chest cavity. And Teddy Roosevelt finished the speech before he went to the hospital. And they left the bullet in.
That was a different breed of individual.
They don't make
back
men
then,
no
too.
more
Yeah, they
like
don't make
that.
men like that anymore.
I think Donald Trump's been a great president. I hope he's president again. But Teddy Roosevelt's my all-time favorite president. He was a man, man.
I know. I saw
He
that
really was
post.
for
That was
a lot
good.
of different reasons. And if you've never read any stuff on Theodore Roosevelt, you need to pick up a book and read about Roosevelt and all of his exploits.
Do you have time for one really quick question, Andy? Because I want to get your
Sure, go
opinion
ahead.
on this before you get off. What, all this happened right Saturday, and our families have tons of questions. I'm sure like people are just asking questions, talking, assuming, conspiracies flying everywhere, whatever. But how should we respond, and how would you respond, and how have you responded from a Christian perspective to this whole incident? Like, especially with the back and forth between the parties and all this stuff, how have you responded to your family or whoever in light of this from a Christian perspective?
Well, the number one thing with a biblical worldview, you've got to realize and resign yourself to the fact that God is in control no matter what happens. Okay, the Bible tells us that God installs good leaders and bad leaders for his purpose. Now, I think, and this is it's just me talking, I think we've had a bad leader installed for the last 4 years, and I hope we've learned a lot and we've been punished. And I hope that God's going to install us a good leader again here on November 5th, I believe it is, on Election Day.
Absolutely.
But, the main thing to know is that God's in control. We know what the end's going to be, and in the end, no matter who our president is in this country, no matter who any of our so-called leaders or public servants are, I worship none of them. We always need to remember that we worship the Creator and not the creation. And if you have that peace of mind and you have that faith and you have that courage, knowing what the end's going to be, that you are actually a born-again Christian, it's all going to be okay anyway. and this is just part of prophecy that's unfolding. This is part of it's just part of end times. Maybe, we don't know how far we are, but as long as you got faith and you got courage, then you should be okay. Don't worry about it.
I think Saturday
Now,
is
as Christians, we need to vote. People say that Christians should not be involved in politics, and I do agree that maybe as Christians we should not 100% abdicate for one party or another, or maybe a candidate or another. But otherwise, you divide it out by principles. Okay, which candidate has a more their ideology lines up with the Bible and what God says, and that's the candidate that you go with.
I agree.
I don't care if it's Republican, a Democrat, independent, whatever. You look at the candidate whose ideology lines up with what the Bible says and what God says, and that's the candidate that you choose. That's the candidate you vote for. And Christians should definitely be involved in politics. And Christians they don't need to be quiet. Like I've said before, the silent majority doesn't need to be silent. We need to speak up. We need to be bold. The Bible tells us to be bold in our faith. Speak up.
Sounds like what you're trying to say.
Don't sit on your hands.
Yeah, don't sit on your hands. Sounds like what you're trying to say is we have a book, we have a manual that tells us everything that's happening. We are living in prophetic times. And, I was going to get into this a little bit later on. There's so many people out there that they're really looking at Trump as this savior that's going to rescue the country. Trump is nothing but a man. I'm going to vote for Trump. I'll tell everybody that right now.
Yeah.
His viewpoints and his ideas on how to run this country line up more with what I want. I'm going to vote for Trump, but I have no way feel like Trump is this miracle savior. The only savior we have is Jesus Christ.
Absolutely. That's exactly right. That's what people
when
need to
we
remember.
hold to that, and we remember that, we are living in prophetic times. Here's the cool thing. We know how it ends. Are we going to go through a lot of hard stuff? Probably. Are we going to come to a time when maybe God's going to bring us out of this funk that this country's in? I hope so. But the bottom line is let your faith stay where it is. You know how it's going to end. We win in the end. That's the bottom line. God wins all of this, and He is in control. And I think that's something that we don't need to worry about it. Pray about it. Give it to God. Get up and don't be silent, like Andy said, and make your vote count.
Faith and fear cannot coexist if you're a Christian, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And,
do we need to be concerned about what's going on in our country and what's going on in the world? Yes. Do we need to be vigilant? Yes. Do we need to keep up with what's going on? Yes. Do we need to only get our information from the mainstream media? No. You need to reach out there and check out some other sources to know what's really going on in the world.
Like Saturday evening,
guys, I got to bow out. I got to get on, and I got some work to do and stuff this morning, but enjoyed being on this morning. Look forward to us being back in the studio again next week.
Can't wait.
We're going to have a different look when you get back next week. Right?
Yeah, love you, man.
Yeah, hey, I like the decoration in the background.
Oh no, that's good. No, we're going to be on the other side next week. We're going to have our own spot.
Yeah.
So, all right. Good deal. Good deal.
All right, man.
All right,
love
brother.
you, man.
Y'all have a good day.
See you,
Be
brother.
safe.
See you.
Hey there, I just wanted to take a second to say thank you so much for watching this episode of The Shepherd Station. If you feel this has added some value to your life, it would mean so much to us if you would share this episode with someone else. It helps us so much when you do that. It would go a long way in supporting our mission to help men become better fathers, husbands, and leaders. Also, if you're watching on YouTube, hit the subscribe button and give us a like. If you're listening to us through Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere else you listen to podcasts, follow us, leave us a review, and let us know how we're doing. We want to hear from you. All right, that's all I've got. Now, let's get back to the episode.
All right, everybody, we took a small break. We had to let Andy get off. He had some things to do. Andy, we can't wait to have you back next week.
Yep.
But let's continue this conversation. And I want to, again, preface, look, I'm probably going to sound like a conspiracy theorist here, and that may be all it is. I've got a conspiracy.
You're a logical person.
Some would argue that. But
To a point.
We're going to throw a lot of things out there. Now, part of me does agree with Andy that, man, I really, there's so much out there about this 3-minute window where this trained tip of the spear, secret security, or I can't even talk, Secret Service agent, a trained sniper that was on the roof looking at the target,
One job.
has said, well, I was told to stand down for 3 minutes. I really want to believe that that's not true. I see Andy's point, and I agree to some degree with Andy's point that if I were in that position, given the federal, use of force guidelines that we all had to apply, in our jobs, there was an imminent threat. I'm not going to sit there and ask, can I fire on this threat? I'm going to do my job. I'm going to take this threat out. I'm going to eliminate the threat, and we're going to figure out where we go from there. So I really hope that 3 minute window thing is just, I think it's like Andy said, fake news, because that's just, you don't hear of that. Andy said it really well. You're not going to walk into a convenience store in uniform, see this place being robbed at gunpoint, and call dispatch and say, hey, I've got this going on. Can I shoot? No, you're going to act, because
That's
innocent
if your
lives
radio's getting out.
well, yeah, that's if your radio works. But lives are on the line at that point. Here's the thing: what was their mission? Their mission was to protect a former president and current presidential candidate.
Threat mitigation.
They had a threat matrix. They had rules of engagement put in place. You also had the mission of protecting everybody else that was out there, the crowd, the innocent people that were there. And we forget that one innocent man, from everything that I can read, a very, very good, godly Christian first responder.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to talk about too.
And the loss of this man is tragic. And my heart goes out to his family.
Wasn't he a firefighter?
He
Yeah.
was. He was a fire
That's
chief.
what I thought I read that.
On this show, I think I speak for everybody. We pray for for his family and their loss, and
Absolutely.
I hope that God can take this and use it somehow to bless others through it. I mean, I don't know how you could, but it's just tragic, and I hate to see it. But
It's shameful.
the thing is that guy had a mission to also protect everybody there. I go back. I'm digressing. The rules of engagement would already be in place. So for me to sit there and think, Andy's got a good point. Is that 3 minute window fake news? Now, it's come out from so many different places. It's come out from Dan Bongino. It's come out from Fox News. It's come out from, I think, 1440, which is another news source.
Yeah.
You see it all over social media. You see all the videos where people are literally, we just watched one. They're literally looking at the roof, filming with their phones, pointing at the guy.
Yeah.
Now,
that could be what they're talking about. That could be, there's this window of all these people yelling at this guy getting up on there. And
it could be.
It might not be that he was waiting for a green light for 3 minutes, but that they were yelling. Is that
There was
could be.
there was enough law enforcement based on the videos I've seen in the area. When people are yelling, "There's a guy with a gun."
Yeah.
that should have brought someone's attention immediately.
right?
Again-
Well, and all that was outside the rally, but like there should have been law enforcement
Oh,
in
yeah.
that area.
Well, you can listen to people on the one video where, I mean, they're not whispering it. They're yelling.
No, they're yelling.
Yeah, no.
Yeah, like-
I mean, you can hear them yelling.
Whether or not this is true or not, one of the things that I've also seen come out, and again, it may be something somebody's putting on social media, whatever. I don't necessarily know that it's confirmed, but that the local law enforcement that went to investigate this guy on the roof, that's when he pointed the weapon at him. That one of the I want to say might have been the sheriff, one of the sheriff's deputies, was pulling himself up to get a look, and that's when the guy pointed the rifle at him. And obviously doesn't have use of both of his hands, so he goes back down to avoid being shot, and that may be what they're talking about.
Yeah, I've heard that too,
And
which
there
we don't know.
could be a delay in communications, but
Yeah.
all right. So we have a saying: 30 seconds in a fight's a lifetime.
Yeah.
All right, when you're fighting for your life,
What is it? What do you always say when seconds matter, cops are minutes away?
Yeah, when
Like, that's
seconds
kind of
count,
the-
cops are only minutes away. And Marcus can attest to this. When you're in a fight for your life, 30 seconds is a lifetime.
Yeah.
I mean, it will wear you out. So you have to put that in perspective with the 3 minutes that they're talking about. So you've identified, and obviously, if what I just told you is true, and they can confirm that's what took place, then you've got to know that as soon as that happened, these guys are on some form of communication. And I would like to think that it wouldn't have taken 3 minutes to get that information to.
Yeah, because how long from that guy seeing him? Because he had the rifle, right? So if the building's facing this way, the kid had to face this way. The ladder was over here, right?
Yes.
So when that guy comes up, the kid's rifle goes this way. He comes back down. He probably starts establishing communication. That kid's got to get his rifle set back
He's
up
gotta-
and everything sighted in to get it to where it needs to be. So however long that amount of time would take, because at that point, hopefully that, whoever that was is talking and saying, hey, yeah, there's a kid up here that's got this thing. And then,
the guy that actually, if I go back to if that is a true statement, that's how that played out,
yeah.
and that sheriff's deputy is probably already, I mean, your adrenaline level has just spiked.
Right. Yeah. He might. Yeah.
And he is, hey, this guy's got a gun. And I guarantee you they're probably coming up with a way to get this guy off the roof somehow. All right, threats there. And yes, there's going to be a delay. Could it have been even a minute delay? I mean, it could have been.
Right.
Because Andy's right. You have all these different communication systems that are everybody's trying to work together with all these different systems at the same time as well.
Yeah.
Because even locally here with Henry County and Houston County, we would have different radio systems, and we'd have to figure out ways to patch all that stuff in.
Right.
And so you've got that is limiting you with your communication already. But 3 minutes? And
People are like, well, it was only 3 minutes. I will tell you this. Hold your breath for 3 minutes and tell me if you think that's a long time.
Right.
yeah.
You know, it's a lifetime. And in my mind, I think in an instance like that, you treat it like an active shooter. You go, you see, everybody goes, and you go till the threat's neutralized. If you hear on the radio, this guy's got a gun on the roof, everybody at that point within running range should be on the way there. And you just keep going until you eliminate that threat. And I'm not going to armchair quarterback those guys. I wasn't there.
Well, we kind of are. I mean,
Yeah,
there's
to a
lot
point.
of information coming out. We
I
kinda
don't
are.
want to. I don't want to eat those guys up too bad because I wasn't.
Well, and
there.
we don't. Yeah, we don't know what was going on. We
Yeah.
don't know the full extent of all the details and everything that was going on in that moment. We can only play on what you guys know from being in situations similar, or what Andy was saying about setting up perimeters and all that kind of stuff. But
Okay,
you
I've had several people inside of a scope because the latter portion of my time on tactical teams, I was a sniper. Most of my time was, up close and kicking the doors in and doing that stuff. But as A, I got older, and B, once I graduated sniper school, I wanted to put that skill to use, and so I've had people in my scope, and I understand that I didn't fire on them because they were not that imminent threat right away. Okay. But when you go to this, and we can only go off of what we see on what we're being fed. Are we being fed fake crap? We probably are. But when you've got this guy, him and his spotter on a roof, and they're looking at this guy, why was there? My question is, why was there hesitation? It could have been they were trying to identify. Maybe they didn't have a 100% good shot on the guy.
in the roof,
I don't know.
the roof was peaked.
And
You
it
know,
could
he
have
could have
been.
barely had he might not have even had himself over the peak of the roof.
Very possible. And that could explain it. But at the same time, they must have at some point gotten a good enough shot to
They got him.
They
at
put him
some
down.
point. Yeah, they did get him.
it goes back to, what is there validity in what the guy is saying or what came out that he was told to stand down for 3 minutes? Is there validity in it? That is the question. The fact that that's being put out, whether it's real or not, that's what I'd like to know.
Right.
The fact that the guy had easy access to that rooftop.
Yeah.
The fact of all the information coming out about this guy, it just kind of doesn't make sense to me. And then if there was that 3 minute window, why in the world was Trump still on stage?
Yeah.
If you look at
Like
the
I said a
totality,
little while ago, that things just they don't smell right almost to the point that they stink.
Yeah. There's always going to be.
and if you
questions
look
like
at it on that video where the people are yelling, the guy's on the very bottom side of the roof at the beginning of the video. The Secret Service shooters on the other roof, you can't break that line. You can't see what's down there.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're like, I don't know what these guys
So people are
at.
yelling, I don't see anything over there
Yeah,
right
'cause-
now. And then you see something peeking, and it's like, oh, wait a second.
It took him a hot minute to get from where he was first seen up to where he could make a shot.
Yeah.
That distance never should have been a thing. But, and I don't know if they were told to stand down because they're like, wait a minute, we got to figure out what's going on up there.
Or whatever.
Again, I don't know the finite details of it.
Yeah.
But when you look at it, from the time he got to where the Secret Service shooters could see him, a lot of time had lapsed from the time people were yelling, because he was right on they just got up on the roof, it looked like. He was on the very back side of the roof.
Yeah. From that video.
Yeah, and it took him a minute because you could see him crawling.
Yeah,
you
like
know.
trying to get everything set up.
Yeah, and it took him a while to get, because that was a big building,
Yeah.
and that could have been a part of the lag time in that response.
I think it's a factor. And look, I don't want to knock this Secret Service guy. And these guys put their lives on the line.
Yeah.
It's just I have questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, I made out of questions.
What was the delay? You know, and having been in those positions, and Marcus will back this up, when you're in that marksman position, you bed into your spot. You're not moving, so you've got limited fields of view anyway.
Yeah.
So it's not like he could stand up and say, "Okay, yeah, now I can see him." He's going to be on his gun,
Right.
and he's looking actively, and that may have been it. And I hope that's it.
Yeah.
It goes back to the question of 3 minutes, man. 3 minutes, and this guy was able to get shots off.
Yeah.
So at some point,
Not just one shot.
yeah,
Multiple,
So
yeah.
at some point, this guy was able to get to where he would have been able to be seen, settle into his rifle, and fire.
Yeah. And it wasn't was it an automatic?
It was an AR style rifle. Is what I'm
Okay.
saying.
So something I do want to talk about, make sure we talk about is Corey Camperatore. I think that's how you say his last name. I don't know. It's difficult. So if I said that wrong, I don't mean to.
The
I just-
deceased victim.
Yeah, the deceased victim. You know, there are a lot of people saying this, and I think Christians and people in general need to be extremely sensitive to this kind of thing. But, you know, it was an act of God that Trump, you know, all these things, a slight head movement and all this stuff. But they're saying this about, you know, God protected Trump. And
Get into that, yeah. So,
and here's the thing: when we say that, we're saying, but God did not obviously protect Corey. It seems like, and so when we say things like that, it
Okay, I have a
can
thought
put off it can put off sort of this idea that, hey, we care more about Trump than we do about this other guy. We're glad Trump's okay. Everybody's like all this, you know, which obviously I've heard many people just express their grievances towards the fact that
I've
he
heard
passed away as well.
I've
It's-
heard a lot of that too. But okay,
So it's like, on the one hand, yeah, Trump was fine, and it seemed like a very narrow escape. On the other hand, this man was clearly, there was
it's
no
tragic.
narrow. Yeah.
but, okay. So have you seen the letter that his daughter wrote?
Yes.
Okay, so there's two ways to look at that, and I am taking nothing away from this man. There was a heroic sacrifice that was given that day. This man literally stood in the way of
Oh yeah,
bullets
absolutely. Like what he did
to
was
save
yes.
his family.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, is it tragic that he lost his life? I take nothing away from that, man. It's horrible.
Right.
And you know, I hate it. This family lost you had a wife that lost her husband, daughters that lost their father, friends that lost a friend.
Right. It seemed like a very godly man.
Good man.
Yeah.
But we question, you know, when my dad died, I questioned, because my dad died at 69. He still had, in my opinion, you know, a long life ahead of him. But my dad did a lot of good in life. And my dad was a very godly, devout Christian who loved Jesus. And when God says it's time for you to go, God chooses that, not us. Mm-hmm. So there's a way that we can look at that. Yes, do we see it as tragic that this man lost his life? But God used this man to save other people too.
Yeah.
Now, we're all looking at it like, all right, there's divine intervention that saved Trump. Okay, I agree with that. I do. I personally believe, and I could be wrong, but I personally believe that God is working through Trump and God has a plan for Trump. Therefore, I think that there was divine intervention to keep Trump from dying that day. I also believe that God used this man to save his family because maybe God has a plan for his family. Maybe this man's purpose was to be there for that because he has already served what God wanted him to do. I don't know the answer to that. Everybody gets wrapped up this, well, if you say that he saved Trump and not this guy, then this guy didn't matter. But I think that people are looking at it wrong when they take that stance.
Absolutely.
That's me.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So
Yeah, and I think the main thing is just that we recognize what that man did, and that's like what you said. He
it's an amazing
yeah,
sacrifice.
he absolutely. It says he shielded his family, and took the bullet for them, and to cover them, and so that's definitely something that should be, aired way more.
I have the utmost respect for that man.
Absolutely.
I think that is a warrior's heart,
Yeah,
because to stand in the face of danger, and even up to losing your life, that is a warrior's heart.
right.
That is a hero, and that man was a hero.
Yeah.
And I take nothing away from him.
Yeah, absolutely. And so in that, everybody's seeing this. And so to your point, it's like God, obviously it happened the way it happened, and God allowed it to happen the way that it happened. And so Trump is okay. That man passed away. And everyone is seeing this. And everybody's hearing this story about Corey, and what happened with his family.
I want to be able to.
and-
I'm like you. I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah, I don't want to. I said it
I was
wrong.
just looking
I know
for
I
it.
said it wrong, and I'm sorry. But Corey was his first name, and I can say that right at least.
Comparatori.
Yeah,
If we say
something
that
like
wrong,
that.
we just want to recognize his name. It was
Yeah.
Corey Comparatori, and he was a true American hero in our opinion.
Yeah,
So if we said his name wrong, we apologize to the family.
Yeah,
Our heart goes out to you, and our prayers are with you. But that man is a hero.
Yeah.
And that's we want to recognize that.
right. And his daughter said that he was a godly man, that he loved the Lord, and he, that was his life. And so, what we should recognize that it's men like that we should celebrate and want to be like one day. I want to be able to say I could do that for my family. I want to, and I believe it did come from like what Andy said, is like faith over fear. Is what's more important to me is my loved ones. It's my relationship with the Lord. It's this stuff, not self-preservation. And the world kind of wants to make it, help yourself first. And in this moment, that man did the exact opposite. It was himself last and his family first. And we should all be able to learn from that. And I think that's an important conversation that we should all be having when it comes to this. It's like people want to mainly talk about the issues between the parties and all this stuff going on and, whatever. But I think what it really comes down to is in the moment, what are you willing to sacrifice your life for? And is it actually something valuable and important? That's kind of where we can shift gears when it comes to this a little bit more, because we don't know all the ins and outs of everything that went on that day and all these things. Everybody's trying to come up with make the story make sense, because it just seems so senseless. For all of that to happen. And I've heard that even said, like it was a senseless act of violence, and all these things. And
I'm going to expound on that in just a minute.
yeah, as men though, as fathers, as husbands, we should be able to talk about these things in a way that brings confidence and hope in what it is God's doing in our lives currently. If something like this happens, which is like a historic moment, July 13th, 2024 is going to be remembered and go down in history books. I'm sure we're going to remember this for the rest of our lives.
Yep.
Talking about it probably for the rest of our lives as well. We shouldn't sit there when something like that happens and say, I've got nothing to say except for, I've heard Rick Burgess talk about this a lot, and I think it's so poignant, is when something like that happens, is the only thing you can fall back on is saying, you know what, I have no clue what to say about this except, hey, I can tell you how to shoot a gun better than that, or I can tell you, how to throw a really good fastball, or whatever. Like, is your life so wrapped up in the things of this world that you have nothing to offer anybody of eternal value when it comes to extremely poignant moments in history like this, or things that happen that it's like the big thing I think a lot of people are asking is, why would someone do something like this? Okay. That's the problem of evil. If God's real, why would he allow something like this to happen? And what Eric said was so good. I think that's a great answer, is like, yeah, God save Trump, and the person that passed away is somebody that's worth lifting up as an iconic hero in the history of the U.S. for what he did, and he's also a Christ follower, and that says something.
You open the door, and I was waiting for that. So when you open the door, now we can go into why this took place. But going back to what you said, Marcus, I know you got something to chime in on this. It's in those moments, we can sit at this table, and I can tell you, I follow Jesus Christ. I'm a saved Christian. My faith is strong. But there are moments when I sit back and I go, my faith is strong as it should be.
That's the question.
I go back into things all the time. We had a conversation last night, me and my wife, about, a lot of worries that I have. And worry is the absence of faith, right?
Yes.
So is my faith as strong as it should be? And I think when you get tested, you know where you are.
Remind me, I got something to add to that when you get done. Sorry.
You know where you are when those moments come up unexpected. Nobody expected this guy to step up and start shooting. This guy didn't expect to have to stand in front of a bullet to save his daughter and his family.
Yeah.
But it's how you act in that moment, how you handle that kind of defines where you are with your faith. This man didn't hesitate.
Zero hesitation.
Zero hesitation.
And this is a guy that runs into burning buildings. Zero
have
hesitation.
Yeah.
Had his faith been in a different place, had his spiritual belief been in a different place, would he have done that? I don't know. I didn't know the man.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that when you know where your final destination is going to be, and you know who your Savior is, and you know where your heart belongs, I go back to what my dad said. My dad had no fear of death. He looked at me, he said, Eric, if the cancer gets me, I go to be with Jesus. If it doesn't, then I get to stay here with you guys a little bit longer. I win either way.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
And that's kind of when your faith is like that, those moments that take place like this that just happened, it will show where your faith is, and it will show you where your faith is.
Absolutely.
Now, to go back to what you said, why does God allow this to happen? Why did this happen, this senseless act of violence? This has been something that's been brewing, and I'm sorry,
It's been in the mix for a long time.
it's been in the mix for a long time. I don't want to take away what you're saying, but I want to get this out before we go any further. We are at a point in our country that there's no in between anymore. There's no, you're either over here or you're over here. And because I'm a conservative, I'm a Christian, I don't believe in the two-party system. I really don't. I think the two-party system has screwed everything up. I think Democrat and Republican has screwed everything up. I think that you should be American. I think that if you live in this country, your values should be of the American values. I think your values should be what the Constitution preaches. And I think above all of that, it should be what you believe biblically.
Right.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because that's what we were founded on.
Yeah.
Last time I checked, I don't think we were founded on Republican and Democrat.
No.
No. Well,
So-
actually, it was warned against. I think I could be completely wrong, but I think Thomas Jefferson literally said, or maybe it was George Washington. I can't remember. It was one of those guys, but warned against that.
Yeah, we didn't learn from
party
the
politics.
Roman Empire that fell because of stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I think that we should be looking at different values, but the two-party system has messed us up, and we have. If you want to blame the left, if you want to blame the right, I don't care who it is, but I think the deep state has created such a level of division in our country that things like this are inevitable. The level of evil that's running around out there right now, we have immorality, we have lawlessness, we have let's defund the police, we have don't worry about what you do. You're your own person. You can choose what you want. We have taken this country's values and we've thrown them in the trash. So when everybody says, "Why did this happen?" Are you serious?
Yes.
Are you serious? And I'm not saying that to you. I'm just saying when people ask this question, "Why did this happen?" You got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
Because the people out there that are running things, the people out there that are creating this division, they're trying to get this to happen. They're orchestrating this from behind the scenes. They're creating this mindset of radical belief systems. You're going to have this stuff happen. When people ask, "Why did this happen?" I'm like, "Are really?"
Right.
Did
Well,
you-
I mean, we
Did
really.
you hear yourself when you said that? That's what.
I mean, we can definitely say that's definitely a big player, and I think any person would definitely say, yeah, that seems to be. But, you know, this kid was 20 years old. He was also registered as a Republican, from what I've heard.
I saw that too.
So that's, you know, so it's kind of like as you look at it, it's like we don't really know why this kid did this. We have no real reason unless and I was telling Jess this morning, you know, unless he wrote it down on a piece of paper or put it in his phone or had some communication with anybody as to why he felt this way or needed to do this. It could have been anything. He could have been trying to prove himself to his family, to his father, to whoever. Who knows why he was doing this? It could have been because he was disillusioned by some, agenda, or he was paid off, or he was a fall guy, or whatever. We don't know. There's so many options, so many things it could be. We really don't know why he did it.
And the question is will we ever know?
Yeah. Now, why would someone do this? That's another question. Why would anybody do something so evil is a totally other question than why did this kid do this? Why do evil, violent acts like this happen? We can pinpoint their source to a degree of like, you know, hey, it's because they're being fed these lies, and so they're going to act upon all these lies. But I think also it's like we live in a fallen world. That's also the answer. It's like why does violence happen? It's because there are violent people. There are people that think these things are the answer. That taking out Trump would have been the answer to all of our problems. You know, or you know, it's the belief that violence is the answer. Why violence would happen.
Can I add something there?
Yeah.
And it just kind of came to me. So the question being, why would somebody do this? Why would evil? So and go with me, because I think I've got a way to do this.
Yeah.
So does evil exist in the world?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Okay. We say yes, but there are some people that, I go back to a story that was told. Mm-hmm. Some people say, no, evil does not exist.
Right.
You know, because and the thing is, evil's not a thing. Evil is the absence of good. Evil is the absence of God. Mm-hmm. Okay. Does heat exist? Does cold exist?
Cold
is
the absence
something
of
that we came up with in our mind
Yeah.
to describe the absence of heat, right?
Yeah. Right.
So evil is the same thing.
Yeah.
It's the absence of good. It's the absence of God. Mm-hmm. I think in that statement, and by the way, that comes, you know who that came from?
Who?
Albert Einstein.
Okay.
He actually had an argument with a professor about that because it was an atheist professor, and he's proving the existence of God.
Huh.
So
Okay.
if you have absence of God, then that says, okay, there is a God. You see what I'm saying? So
Yeah. Like evil does prove. Like if you see evil, that's definitely a common argument. Is like if you understand that evil exists, you have to understand that there's an opposite.
exactly.
It's
my
like
point
day and
being-
night. There's
My point being to that is, why did this take place? And I would say that because of the evil existing in the heart of whoever's doing it. Mm-hmm. Okay, is it evil existing there, or is it the absence
Right.
of God?
Yeah.
And we live in a society where we've decided to take God out of everything. You've taken God out of government. You've taken God out of schools. You've taken God out of society. You've sat there and said he doesn't exist. You've said, do what you want to do. I think that all this is taking place because we are now at the point of the absence of God, the absence of Jesus Christ, the absence of any moral code.
Right. Yeah.
And until we get back to that, you're going to see more of this happen.
Yeah. Well,
you can,
okay.
if I can elaborate for a second,
Yeah, go
you can dial it back to beat a dead horse. When they started taking like prayer to schools, Pledge of Allegiance, stuff like that, you started noticing a decline in society as a whole. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And I'll never forget this as long as I live. We were in Iraq. I was a private in the 101st. We were getting ready to make a big push into Iraq. Everybody was scared to death. It was something new. We're going to combat.
Yeah.
Chaplain walks by. Thank you. Chaplain walks by, talks to every group, and he said something that stuck with me. It resonated. He's like, if your faith is strong, you walk without fear. And at that moment, I was like, I'm going to be okay. You know, and I I think about that often, like after working in law enforcement and stuff. I see things and I'm like, how can, and we've all had this talk, how could something like that happen? You know, where was God in that? God's got his hand in everything. There's a reason for everything he does, everything that happens.
And
when
that's a hard pill to swallow, the fact that he has to, I mean, there's a reason for
there,
everything.
absolutely.
It's a hard pill to swallow sometimes.
Like, look at, this is a horrible subject, like childhood cancer. No child should ever have to endure that. Mm-hmm. And like I know parents that have had kids with cancer. They're just like, why is God doing this to me? You know, it's not, he's not doing that to you. Mm-hmm. And the way I manage it, and Eric's we've all seen horrible stuff. It's the way I put this at peace with me is God needed them for another reason and took them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's also that we live in a fallen world.
Absolutely.
So even naturally, the world is fallen. It tells us, you know, that in Romans, it tells us that the world is, you know, all creation groans, waiting for the redemption of the sons of God. Like that's, I think I quoted that right. I can't remember, but I have a hard time quoting things from memory sometimes. But that is the idea is, you know, when Adam and Eve fell, all creation was subjected to that as well. And so, yeah, awful things are going to happen, it should point us in the direction of God and say, we need you all the more. We need heaven on earth all the more. We need to subdue the chaos. We need this craziness to be organized. We need you more. And yeah, God allows these things to happen. Nothing happens that God does not allow to happen. If he didn't want it to happen, it wouldn't happen.
Wouldn't happen at all.
But he did also.
I think they happen. It's hard to do this. It's hard to sit there and take a bad situation.
Oh, yeah.
I'll use Corey again.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to think that something beautiful is going to come out of that. It's hard to think that, okay, God let this guy die. Mm-hmm. But God did this, and through that, somehow he's going to be glorified in this through that sacrifice that he made. It's hard to sit there and see that.
Yeah.
And sometimes your human eyes can't.
Yeah.
But I believe that everything that God does is for a reason, and it's for the glory of God.
Right.
And if we find the positive in it, we can see it. It just takes looking for it and finding it.
You have to look.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. You have to look, and you have to be ready to respond to these questions when something like this happens.
Yep.
If you know, you talk about it all the time. We talked about it when we talked about the Fit to Serve podcast.
Yeah.
In that episode, we said if the only time you've come into contact with, you know, a violent person, or, you know, like you have a fight with somebody for the first time and you've never like worked that out in yourself before that, like tested yourself, but you're testing yourself when you're in the moment.
Yep.
That's too late.
Yeah, you're behind a power curve. You know, that's like, and I'm sure Eric's done it too. When I first started law enforcement, I went straight from the academy. Mm-hmm. I graduated on Friday. I worked one day of day shift, and I learned, I'm like, I don't go get your mail or your lunch. I got other things to do. They put me on midnights. Mm-hmm. I went one day of day shift. The rest of my career was from midnight till 8 in the morning, or from 6 p to 6 a. I worked 2.5 years by myself, the only law enforcement officer in 460 square miles. There were times I would get calls. The entire drive there was a mode of fear because the way the call came out. I'm like, what am I about to walk into?
Right.
And I went because I knew I had the faith. I'm like, God will take care of me.
Yeah.
And you probably heard the analogy, like, courage is fear that held on a little bit longer.
Yeah.
And anybody who's worked in law enforcement has gone to a call. You're like, and you cannot tell me you do not have fear in your heart. I do not know a police officer on this planet that I know personally that has not gone to a call. They said that I wasn't afraid. You're lying, you know?
Yeah.
And it's if your faith is strong, and I firmly believe this, and like I said, I've always believed in God. We'll talk about my other thing that happened later, but it's really opened my eyes that if you have Him in your heart and you believe in it and you carry that faith, you have a shield around you.
Yeah.
You have an absolute shield around you. And I looked at it like, well, if I get killed doing this, I got killed doing something I love doing. Mm-hmm. And no one will fault me for trying to save someone's life. That's kind of the way I looked at it.
And you died for a noble cause.
Yeah. You know, for the greater good, if you want to call it that. But
There is nobility in sacrifice.
there is,
I
absolutely.
believe that. There's nobility in sacrifice. There's honor in sacrifice.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And going back to this Corey guy, that was a true sacrifice.
Yeah.
100%.
I'm beating a dead horse with that.
No, you're good.
No,
You're right though.
Say His name every day, man.
Yeah.
You know, that's...
Yeah, exactly. Like He should not be forgotten for sure. So the other question is how do we as Christians respond to this? And I asked Andy at the beginning of the podcast that question because I wanted his take, but I want to ask us three that same question. But I have an answer.
I want to hear yours.
But the reason why I asked this is because ever since this came out, I mean, on both sides of the coin, not that I know these people are Christians, but at least Trump supporters, and then you got Biden. You got these two, polar opposites. It seems like, maybe not, but it seems like a lot of the comments and a lot of the things I've been hearing people say. It's like, in one breath, we'll condemn an act of violence towards somebody we care about, and then the other breath, we're okay to mock and set up violence or even be okay with something poor happening or and not even so much as expressing that, but knowing somebody's got a heart that it's like, well, if that happens, I'll be okay. Mm-hmm. It won't really upset me. But the Bible's clear. Like in Psalms 97:10, it says we're supposed to hate evil. It says, let me just read it. Like it's a call to hate evil, and if something like that happens, if evil happens, when we rejoice in evil, the Bible says God doesn't rejoice in the death of the wicked.
Right.
He doesn't rejoice in that. Like he doesn't like these things that are bad that happen. Now, are they necessary? Yes. And God enacted necessary judgment, but He doesn't rejoice in it. And Psalms 97:10 says, let those who love the Lord hate evil. That's the question. Do you love the Lord?
That's a pretty solid statement.
That's solid. Yeah. I mean,
That's legit.
So
and that's coming from a warrior. That's coming from somebody that saw death and awful things happen all the time and probably had to, make them work out in his head, in his mind. Like this has to be justified somehow.
I've been in 3 different shootings, okay, over a long span of time. You've been where you've had to pull the trigger, all right? And here's the thing. You don't rejoice in the death. It doesn't matter who they are.
There's no glory in it.
There's no glory in that.
Right.
I think in that job that law enforcement officers, military, whatever has to do, it's part of the job sometimes. You take no joy in it. You take no remorse in it.
Yeah.
You move to the next objective and you complete your mission.
Absolutely.
Your mission. Now,
Yeah.
do you deal with things afterwards? Yes, but you don't rejoice in that. That is the death of the wicked, the death of of evil people. I think in rejoicing in that, you're starting to let your soul slip into that evil side as well.
Yeah. And you have to ask yourself, even, it's like what we say rejoice, we say, things would be better and I would be better if that person just died. Or
I think
even
that's a human emotion.
It is.
That is a human reaction.
It is a human reaction. Yeah. But to feel absolutely no remorse for a lost life is something different, I think. Like that's not remorse, I'll say, but like to feel something there.
To feel
that's
joy?
To feel joy, there's definitely...
There's something wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But Jesus took it a step further, right? where he said murder is equal with hate. And that's something that we've got to think about. You know, it says 97:10, it says those who love the Lord will hate evil. And then Jesus says murder is equal to hate. You know, in that if we just looking at all these comments and all these things, it's like it seems like there's some people that really, really viscerally hate one side or the other.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah.
You know, and whether or not you express that, what matters isn't that you express it. It matters what's going on in your heart. And if you feel this way towards this person, you know, you're not allowed to. We're not allowed to be okay with Trump and hate Biden. We're not allowed to do that. That's just not like, I'm sorry, that's just the truth. We're not allowed to sit here and pick and choose these people we're going to love and care about. Now, do you like condone everything they do? No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that you need to be all for it and support them and go for it. But I'm also saying we don't sit there and partake with the world's idea of what it means to push an agenda forward or do these things, which would be like, you know, talking awful. I've heard Christians say awful things about Biden.
Oh yeah.
Awful things.
All right.
You know, but then also I've heard the opposite side as well for Trump, you know, and it's like, okay.
You're either on one side
You
or
know?
the other, and that's the way we've gone as a society. There's
Yeah,
no, like
and
I
that's
said,
what you were saying earlier.
there's no, you know, used to, you could have a Democrat, you could have a Republican, you could have an independent. I don't really care. But they could sit down at a table
And have
a discussion.
civil conversation.
And they could say, okay, well, I agree with this, or I disagree with that, and yada, yada, yada. You don't have that anymore.
Right.
It is complete. You're either here or you're here. And if you're not here, then you're not with us and you're with them. And if you're not with them, you're with them. There's no unity in our country anymore.
Right.
Now, how do we handle what happened as a Christian, as from a Christian perspective? Well, first and foremost, it's like you said, it's an evil act.
Yeah.
It was an evil act. And you know what? I hate that the guy died. He's 20 years old. He had his whole life in front of him.
Right.
I hate
It's
that
tragic.
something. It is. It's tragic.
It is. It's absolutely tragic.
Am I glad that the threat was stopped?
Yes.
Am I glad that we did have loss of life, but it was mitigated to limited? Part of me says, at least, I mean, it could have been worse.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So,
Oh yeah.
but at the same time, am I happy this guy died? No,
Right.
not at all. This guy was indoctrinated by an evil ideology at some point.
Yeah, something.
Somewhere.
was evil that caused him to do this. For
Exactly.
And if people don't think the devil is out there,
He's
he's
lurking like a lion, just like the Bible says.
sure. Yeah.
As Christians, I think that we've got to recognize what we're fighting. We are fighting, if you are in any way paying attention to what's going on in the world today, in politics, in world news, anything, we are not, it's like it says, to coin a cliche frame, we're not fighting, you know, evil men. We're fighting, you know, evil. This is a spiritual war. I don't want to quote anything the wrong way, but we're fighting the principalities of, you know, evil.
Yeah.
We are fighting against a spiritual adversary.
Yes.
And this spiritual adversary has indoctrinated society at a level that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
And until we can recognize that and bring back,
A level we've never seen. I'll say, like,
Oh,
we've
yeah,
never
exactly.
seen.
Not in our
I mean, if
lifetime.
I lived in the Roman time, I'd be like, there's evil rampant.
oh yeah.
You know, when Rome was really
somebody
at its
asked
top.
me. Somebody asked me yesterday, just to get on a quick tangent here. Somebody asked me yesterday. Said they brought up Sodom and Gomorrah. They said, you know, we're living in really bad times, and you know, at some point, God destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah for what they were doing. And my statement back to that person was, "Oh, we've surpassed Sodom and Gomorrah by leaps and bounds."
Oh yeah.
My personal opinion is we have.
We're lapping them.
We are now killing babies in the name of abortion and freedom of choice. And whatever you believe on that, I don't really care. I have my belief on that. Conception is when the life starts. It's been proven.
The heartbeats. It's
You know?
life.
the minute that starts, there's a light flash and life begins. And when you kill that, that's murder. I don't care if it's outside the womb, inside the womb. I don't care. That is my belief. Mm-hmm. So we're killing babies. We're killing kids at an astonishing rate in the name of freedom of choice. What's my body, my choice? No. There's a life inside you. And nobody here on this planet is an accident. I don't care if it's through rape, through holy marriage, through whatever, through an accident because you just weren't careful. Nobody's here by accident. God ordained everybody. God has his hand on everybody who was created. It says so in the Bible. I knew you before you were ever created. Mm-hmm. We're killing kids. That's evil. We're sitting there mutilating our bodies. Well, I can be a woman today, or I can be a kitty cat today, or I can be a catcher's mitt today, whatever I choose to be, right? Or you have this mindset that it's okay to take things that the Bible says are an abomination. And I am not, I'm going to stand up for this. I probably shouldn't say this, but I'm going to.
Say it.
I am not homophobic. Mm-hmm. I have friends who are homosexuals.
Mm-hmm. I knew you were going to say
that. They are good people, man. I love them to death.
Absolutely.
I cannot love the lifestyle and say I'm okay with that because it states in the Bible it's an abomination. Back in the days of Molech, in the days of Baal, when people openly worship this in biblical times, Molech was the god of child sacrifice, right?
Yes.
I believe so, yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
it was. The people would regularly walk up to the idol and cast their children into the fire willingly.
Mm-hmm. We call that a cult nowadays.
When they, yeah.
Not to make light of it, but
No, yeah, right.
People
you're right.
that worshipped Baal, the priests of Baal would regularly, the priests,
Yeah.
the males, okay,
Yeah.
not priestesses, but the priests would regularly dress as women and parade around as women, and the homosexuality was rampant. Okay, we're back there. We're cutting up and mutilating bodies to change what God made. No, we're sacrificing babies again. We're just not throwing them in the fire. We're cutting them out of the womb. We are back.
no difference.
There's no difference. We have gotten to a point of evil that is horrifying. I don't judge people for it. I pray for them. I wish that they could see this. But until we get out of this mindset in society and we bring God back into it and we stop listening to what the devil's doing. The only way the devil can win in any of this is to destroy what God thinks is beautiful.
Yeah.
Why did God create people? God created people to worship him because he loves us.
Yeah.
And the devil knows he's done.
Yeah.
The devil knows he's beaten. He knows the end of the story. So what is he going to do? He's going to sit there and destroy the very thing that God loves.
Right.
And that's the only power he has. And the thing is he doesn't hold that power. We give it to him.
Right.
Yep.
He just convinces us that his way is better. Yeah. And we as a people, not me, not you, not
Yeah.
you, but we as a society and we as a people worldwide have bought that.
Yeah.
And we're listening to him. And until we start listening to what God tells us and we start listening to what Jesus tells us and we follow that, you're going to continue. You're going to continue to see these evil kinds of acts take place.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
Yep.
And
So the answer that you're asking from me is we get back to listening to what God tells us to do.
yeah. Well, and we get back to following Jesus's teaching, like what he said to do and how he said to be, the Beatitudes, the kind of people that would inherit the kingdom of God, the people that are a part of God's kingdom, are these, he gives exactly who they are, what they're like, what they do, how they act. But we've gotten it so backwards, and even Christianity, we think that culture has invaded Christianity by the way it looks. And in some ways it has. But I would say culture has invaded Christianity in the way that it acts, not just the way it looks.
I agree.
So yeah, the things we do obviously are the way we act, but people are more concerned about the lights and the show and the mega churches and these things. And yeah, that's
religion.
I was thinking the same thing.
there's something there with that too, which is a religion, yeah. But on the opposite side is I think culture has invaded Christianity in the way we respond to things. More so, that we started believing these things that aren't true, that go in direct conflict to the Bible. Like, it's like, if you're a Christian and you're Republican, you're supposed to love Trump and hate Biden and do everything you can to mock and hurt and distort and defame and talk poorly about someone you've never met. You see what the media wants you to see about that person, and you just, and then same thing. And the reason why I harp on that is because, I mean, we live in the South. The majority of people here are Trump followers. I mean, majority. There are those that don't, and I voted for Trump. I'm not ashamed to say that. I think that he would, in the same way Eric just said. I think that he has a better idea and will be able to more accurately execute, the things he said he wants to do and has done in the past for our nation.
We need to keep in mind that he is just a man.
He is just a man, exactly. And in that, he is a man that is vulnerable to shortcomings. As soon as we start elevating a man to a position that only God should possess, that's when we start failing. That's when we start getting off track. And that's when, I mean, you see it with Saul, and David even. Like, the people lifted up these kings, and they were just men. And from the beginning, God didn't even want a king for Israel. He wanted to be what's called a theocracy, where God's at the top. He's reigning over this kingdom, but the people wanted a king. The people wanted the king. And we're no different today. We want Trump to save us. People want Biden to save them. They want the person. And the reality is, go get down to the nitty gritty. It's not even the person that's running the show. Yeah. But
no,
even more so, though, you want an ideology to save you. You want a Congress to save you. You want the government, the systems of this world to save you. And that's just...
Yeah, when was the last time a congressman or senator showed up on your doorstep and was like, hey, I'm here to help you?
Yeah. Like, when was the last time they cared enough to, so...
I think people have gotten lulled into this. Well, if I just sit down and be quiet, the government's going to take care of me, or whatever, however they want to.
Yeah, that's what the government wants you to believe.
Yeah. And people are like, well, Trump will save us.
Right.
And I'm not disagreeing with that statement, but I am to a point of Trump's not going to save us. We're going to save ourselves with the help of him. He's going to guide us to where we need to be, and God's going to be right there with us walking through this. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I would think I go a step further and say God's going to have to do it all the way through.
Absolutely.
But I see what you're saying. Like, the act of that, the responsibility is on us.
If he's using Trump as an instrument,
yeah,
because I can't look out here in the street and see God, but I see him. He's everywhere. Look at the trees, everything.
Oh yeah.
But I think it's when you start deifying that person.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, when you deify that person, that's where we're going to fail.
Like the saying, the greatest trick the devil ever pulled was convincing people he didn't exist.
Yeah.
Well, he's done that one in spades.
Yeah. And
been working on it.
That slips in there when people start questioning and losing and that faith.
Yeah.
You got to believe. You got to have faith.
Yep.
And I've seen it. People have prayed stuff into fruition, man. And I'm a firm believer in the power of prayer. And that comes when your heart is close to God, where it needs to be.
Yeah.
And we are not here to judge anybody. I've arrested people. It's not my place to judge them. Hey, you broke the law. Mm-hmm. You have to take a ride with me.
And you have to answer for it.
And you have to answer for what you just done. And I don't know what your thought process was when you pulled the trigger on that bad idea, but you got to go answer for that.
That's another Marcusism.
And
the trigger on that.
And it mystifies me that the lack of, what's the word I'm looking for? Not complacency. Is it empathy? Maybe the word I'm looking for.
See what you're saying.
Yeah.
You see where I'm trying to go with this?
Yeah, no, the lack
you're
of, you're right, the lack of empathy, absolutely, 100%.
And if you stop, there's 50 things running through my head right now.
Oh, you're good.
But
that hamster's getting tired.
It is, man. He is running 9-0. That wheel is squeaking. Oh, that's my tinnitus. Thought it was my hamster wheel. But, there's And I believe, man, with all my heart, if you accept God into your life and try to do right, I ain't saying you got to go out here and be the perfect human, because there's no such thing. We're human.
I was about to say you're not gonna be.
No. But if you accept him and take him into your life and make him a part of your life and your family, and try to surround yourself with these kind of people, excellence will just ooze out of your life.
Yeah.
But do bad things happen to good people? Every day.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every day.
Sproul, I think would say, or maybe it was Spurgeon, would say, why do bad things happen to good people? Well, there was only one good person and he died. You know,
Yeah.
and so really
there's everybody
there's only
else.
one real good person and he was killed for it.
Yep.
So nobody is actually good. So like why do bad things happen to good people? Well, the reality is we all have a propensity for evil. We all have sin in our life. We're all born in with a sin nature. You know, and like Genesis, like what God says to Cain, you know, the creature is is waiting to pounce on you. Like he's waiting at the door for you to pounce on you. Are you going to give in to this thing? And you know, we all have to ask that question, because I think Satan, the enemy, every single day with every situation, all these things, Trump, Biden, whatever, Robert F. Kennedy, we'll throw that in there. We'll just throw it in there. Why not? Throw him in there. He's getting, you know, high ratings, whatever. But you have a decision to make. Either you're going to allow the enemy, the principalities, like Eric was talking about, we're going to allow those things to overcome us, or we will allow the victory of Jesus, our faith, to overcome the world. That's literally the decision we have to make. And who wins? Whoever has your attention.
Yeah.
Like that's it. That's who wins, because it's a fight for the battle's for attention. It's for souls. It is for souls 100%. But the day-to-day battles that we face, you know, whether or not we give in to these things, it's about where's your attention? Where's your focus? What are you thinking about? What are you focused on? And if you're constantly focused on Trump saving you or Biden saving you or whatever, you're totally missing it entirely, because there's an ocean. Those are streams. There's an ocean here, and the ocean is God. Like he's the one in control of all this. We're just seeing little pictures, you know, little tiny things. And all those streams come back to God always. And so in all of it, whether or not you're a Trump, Biden, political party, whatever, like Eric said, I think labels should just go out the window, and just be a Bible believing. Like all that matters is if you believe in God and Jesus and what He did for us.
Bible believing, pro-American.
Yeah, you know, that's what matters. But if you, and I'm convicted of this because I've partaken in this, even, you know, where I'm like, okay, I've got to change my ways in my heart, you know, and the only way I can do that is through prayer. But like, hating on Biden, there's been a ton of that, especially since the debate. I mean, it's like we'd rather just totally take him down with our words. Hating on Trump has been happening ever since he, I mean, good Lord, got in office or even started running for president. I mean, That was, you know, the reality is there's no good option here. But no matter what that is, our stance as Christians should be to pray for and to have empathy for those people. So Biden's health issues, that should be a concern for prayer. And that should also be a concern for us,
should concern everyone.
It should.
And
it should.
for, like, you should be concerned about him, not about his ability to lead us, but about him genuinely. It's like, we need to pray for him.
I
While
hear
also-
what you're saying. We should be praying for him.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't hate it.
Wasn't that
saying
he
at
would
the
listen
same
to what
time-
his advisors are saying, you know, they count.
At the same time, I think that we should be concerned for our country, because I don't think,
Well, yes,
I don't
yeah.
think that there's the mental ability to lead.
yeah.
And that's based on factual evidence.
Right.
Going on. That's
Well,
not
what
based
I'm
on my
saying is
feelings
people
about it.
taking that a step further and
Yeah,
like
yeah, I
joking
get
and
you.
making coarse jokes about
Right,
him
right.
and all these things, and I just don't know that that's appropriate or right. We've got to be more sensitive, and we've got to be more sympathetic, empathetic, and I think we've lost that entirely
have.
because we've lost that. there's no real urgency to do anything substantial, because instead we think we're accomplishing something by mocking someone, when in reality, when I say, hey, pray, the most important thing we can do is pray for these people. And if you say, well, like that's going to actually do anything, well, that tells me a lot about what you think about the power of prayer.
Yes.
And about God's ability to actually do what it is that needs to be done here. If you think that can't do anything, then that tells me a lot about you and about your relationship with the Lord. Like, the whole point for us to be the kingdom that God's called us to be is to be in relationship with him, communing with him, and bringing the matters of the world to the Lord and the matters of God to the people. Like, that's our role as Christians, as priests. Like, as it says in Peter, like we're to be a royal priesthood, and we're bringing these matters before God and God before the people. Through
When it all comes down to it, isn't that what he's wanted us to do from the very beginning?
Yes, exactly. And so if we don't believe in the power of prayer, and we don't believe that can actually change anything or do anything, then okay, that's a lost world. Like, we're done then. At that point, there's nothing else we can do except for give up our lives for something that, may or may not really, it might be a blip in the map of history. But prayer really does change things. It really does. And if you pray, not that you'll get what you want, but you will have peace in the midst of whatever's going on too. Like, that's another thing. And there are too many Christian Americans today that don't have peace in the midst of what's going on, because they are not in on what God is wanting to do. They'd rather get their agenda forward and see their schedule put forward than pray for God's will to be done.
That's a deep thought.
It is.
We are kind of running a little bit long.
Yeah.
We did want to discuss this today. There's one more thing that I want to bring up, and this is just an Eric thought.
This is going to be good.
Maybe, I don't know. I believe we're in the middle of something. There was a guy that predicted all of this to take place. Now, whether or not I don't know if you saw this video. I cannot remember the guy's name.
Briggs? Is it Briggs?
Kind of bald-headed.
Yeah.
But he predicted all this to take place, right down to Trump getting shot in the ear. And he later on went to say that, Trump fell to his knees. He said, I saw this in the vision. He comes back up. He says that it busted his eardrum, but it showed an injury to his ear. And he said he had a moment, a very religious moment with Christ when he went to his knees, and it changed the whole course of things. And he later goes on to say that his vision also showed Trump winning the election by a landslide. Now, I'm not going to go as far as say, okay, that's all going to happen. That's whatever. Is this guy a prophet? I don't know. I'm almost believing that we don't really have any prophets.
It's tough, man. It's
So
tough.
it really is.
Yeah,
Now, this guy believes, but what it does say is, to me, if you look at everything that surrounded all this event that took place, whether you believe that the Secret Service is in on it, or whether you believe that it's a conspiracy from the left, or whether you believe that it was just some radical guy that, hey, a lot of things might have not been done perfect, but it happened the way it did. Whatever. I'm not saying it's any of those. I'm saying it was a tragic incident that took place. But it should, in my mind, kind of solidify a few things. There's a diagram that goes out that if you watch the video, right before Trump gets hit, he turns his head.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay? Right. Had he not turned his head,
Yeah.
the bullet would have entered a portion of his brain.
Right.
More than likely killing him.
Right.
But he did. Now, is that divine intervention? I believe it is. There are the people out there that sit there and go, well, why did he do this or why did he do that? Or you can't say that because Corey died. I don't care. I believe God works in very mysterious ways, and I believe that there's a hand of protection on this man. This man has been arrested. He's basically been ridiculed by everything from the day that he took office the first time.
It's still standing.
He's been vilified. He has been now arrested, charged with a bunch of bogus stuff that is currently being thrown out of every court that it goes into, which should tell you what kind of cases they had and why they're doing this to him. Mm-hmm. And now he's had an assassination attempt on his life. That a guy with an AR-15 rifle, which by very definition is a fairly accurate platform, within what we called zeroing range, in all honesty, should have hit that target. Okay? And God turns his head at the last second. I personally believe that there's a hand of protection on this man, and maybe we're going to see God work, not Trump.
What you saw that day with that, and I'm sorry to interrupt, is I believe 100% that was the hand of God doing the right thing.
I do.
I
And
believe that.
I believe Corey's sacrifice was the hand of God
Absolutely.
saving other people.
Absolutely.
Now, I also believe that this is, to me, you're going to see God working through this man, and I hope that this whole event gets people to turn back to God, and let's get our country to come back together. That's what I believe.
Yeah, I'll tell you, I'll be praying for it.
So will I. So will I.
You know,
Absolutely.
that's all we can do is just be praying that is the case. Even praying for it if that doesn't happen for Biden. You
Yeah,
know, or,
I mean,
you
whatever
know,
God's
like we
will
can't
is.
we can't just lax up just because we didn't get what we wanted.
No.
You know, and so yeah, I'll be
I've come
praying
to a
for this for
point that I
Trump,
don't
but I'll also be
necessarily-
praying for it for
A lot of times when I ask for what I want, it's not the best thing. So I've gotten to the point
You know,
now that
We're all guilty of
yeah.
that.
I
I think-
want this to happen,
right.
but we should get to a place where, you know what, we want God's will to happen.
Right, exactly. And that's just what it comes down to is like I want God to change the heart of anybody who's in leadership and get a hold of their heart and make their heart his will. That would be the best case scenario, that the person leading us has a heart for the Lord, like a David, you know, that's like willing to seek after him with everything they've got.
I think maybe we probably need to go ahead and wrap up. So,
Yeah.
Marcus, you got anything else, buddy?
I got a lot of things to talk about.
I'm just glad you came today, man.
I enjoyed it. You know, we've talked about a lot of different things today, but people have to, like that one episode I was on, the first one I was on, we were talking about the commitment. People have got to make that commitment to want to go to church. Going to church don't make you a Christian. Church is full of hypocrites. We've all seen that. But my point is, I don't care where you pray. I pray in my truck, pray in my deer stand, whatever. But people need to accept God and see how God wants us to live. Like that, I don't hate Joe Biden.
Right.
I don't like the guy.
Yeah.
I don't hate the guy that took a shot at Trump. I hate he had to die, but there's a lot more to the story than we will ever know, I'm sure. But if people can get back to God
Yeah.
and quit, I don't want to get into this right now, but there's a lot of things that people just need to stop doing. You know, grow up.
Yeah.
Thank
There
you.
you go. That's it. Grow up.
that's
Let's
the-
just all grow up and focus on the things that matter.
Can't we all be friends?
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
I can get along with anybody till it's time not to.
Yeah.
That's one thing about Marcus. Marcus can get along with a wall.
Yeah, and it's.
Hey, walls are pretty.
I think
They're easy to talk to.
easy to talk to.
Yeah, they are.
They listen. We're
I might misquote the guy that said this. I don't know if it was Chesty Puller or exactly who it was, but it's like, be nice to everybody you meet, but have a plan to kill them.
Oh my
That was
gosh.
Mattis, wasn't it?
Who was it?
Was that Mattis or was it
Mad
Chesty
Dog
Puller?
Mattis?
It may have been. I don't
Matt,
know.
it was, he was a Marine. But
I don't
it's-
remember who it was that said it, but I know what you're talking about.
But that having been said, you know, be nice to people.
Yeah.
And I've gone on complaints where they're like, you're going to be in a fight when you walk in the door. And I'm like, well, okay. And I firmly believe in it reciprocates. It's how you treat people.
Yeah.
I can go to a call and end up making it the worst call I've ever been on in my life, or I can have it go smooth as silk. It's like when I go to your house, if I want to complain at your house, I have to respect, that's your house. I respect you, it's your house. If I go in your house and disrespect you, you're going to get mad.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That makes
And the Trump bashers, the Biden bashers, stop. Man,
Just stop. What's that SNL skit?
Marcus was the master at good old boying people.
man, I'm telling
He's a
you.
good old boy somebody, it calms them right down. So,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And
It's like just
I've served warrants on people. They're like, take somebody with you. I'm like, I got it. I go there and I'm like, hey, I hand them their warrant. I'm like, do you know this guy? They're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna explain this to you. I didn't do this. The guy on this paper done this. I'm just, and they're looking at me like, You're being awful nice. I'm like, I ain't mad at you. You ain't done nothing to
Got a
me.
job to do.
Yeah,
I was like,
I
you
don't
know,
hate you.
it'll
Yeah.
buff, but
That's right.
And I'm telling you, when I come out of the academy, I was honor graduate of the Tennessee Law Enforcement Training Academy. First guy in my department history to ever do that. I'll tell you this, the academy teaches you just enough to be dangerous. And I went, like I said, I worked one day on day shift. There's 3 different types of people: day people, evening people, and then midnight people. Ain't nobody out after midnight up to any good.
Yeah.
Cops and robbers, that's all it's out after midnight. Let me tell you, and my closest backup, best case, was 45 minutes. How
You
long?
had to learn how to talk to people.
How long?
Oh, yeah.
How long do most gunfights last? 3 to 5 seconds. The average is 7 to 10 rounds are fired.
Yeah, that's it.
That 45 minutes ain't cutting it.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've been whooped more than once. But here's the thing: you learn real quick how to talk to people. And I think when being godly and having good faith affords you the ability to be able to talk to people a lot better and make things go better, if that makes sense, what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Like I can walk across the street over there and I can make somebody mad in 5 seconds. Why?
Or you can make their day in 5 seconds.
Or you can make holding a door for some. I held a door at the gas station yesterday for a lady, and she stopped and looked at me. And I was like, "Look, chivalry's not dead." She goes, "That was so nice of you." That made my
Blew her
day.
mind,
That
yeah.
made my day, but I think it made her day to realize that not everybody on this planet's walking around with an agenda to make people angry.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just
Yeah, and that really, I mean, you say that and we laugh, but I mean, that really, there are people that I think really believe there are no good people out there anymore.
I got kicked
There's
out of a
nobody.
grocery store back home. I had a shirt on. It looked like Windex, the logo, but it said Win Mag. And it's like terrorist disinfectant. I was in my hometown, Ingalls Grocery Store, North Carolina, and this lady came up to me and went off on me. I was like, I'm looking around. I'm like, what in the world? And I'm like, what's the problem? She stomps off. Well, a few minutes later, the manager walks up. He's like, sir, you need to leave. I'm like, what I do? Well, we had a complaint on you. I'm like, for what? He's like, well, your shirt's offensive. I'm like, you're offensive. And I set my little basket down in the aisle and left. It was probably the smart thing for me to do because there's a lot of things I have a very, very short fuse for. But I was just like, I cannot believe that just happened.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's just, I don't understand the mentality. They say liberalism's a disease. They just lost sight of what's important and lost sight of God.
Yeah.
That's what I think.
That's most people. Well, I say most people. That's what society's done. They've lost
It's
sight of
all
what's
of it,
important.
yeah.
You gotta keep your eye on the target, man. And that's the big man,
Yeah.
And
Well, like I said, we're getting a little long on time, and
my bad.
No, you're
I was
fine.
rambling.
You're good. You're
Marcus can ramble, but hey, we love him.
I'm a rambler.
Go to our way. Sorry, I'm gonna let you do.
Actually,
this, 'cause
yeah,
you
I was
know
gonna-
all of it.
I
We need to-
was
we need
gonna
to sit
say
and add
that.
all that stuff, man.
Go to our website. We updated our website. It's got resources on there from Dr. Olivia Johnson. It's got an events tab now because we're getting ready to start working on some of that.
You might see my ugly mug and this ugly mug. Trying to teach people how to, shoot and
I
clear
think
their homes and a lot of
yeah.
things that people I think would like.
Home defense was we put this out on our social media platforms. What you guys would like to, what interests you the most as far as like an event goes, whether it be self-defense, home defense, or I can't remember what the other one was, but
A whole lot of firearm courses.
yeah, a lot of firearm courses. You guys decided most of you were most interested in home defense or preparation. And so we are looking at hopefully doing an event. So stay tuned for that. Keep an eye out when we release all the details on that. You can see the event on our Facebook or on our website, but it doesn't have the date or the time or anything like that. No details yet. But so just keep looking out for that. As soon as we get it all figured out, we'll let everybody know. But we're excited about that. We also we've got huge things coming down the lane here.
Still got our merch on our website page.
Yeah, still got that. Check out everything there.
Yeah, check out everything, man.
We are also now on TikTok. By
We
the
are.
way, we are on TikTok
Y'all are gonna force me to put
we
that
are
on my
now,
phone.
We are now on TikTok.
Killing me, Smalls.
Hey, look, if we're gonna reach people, with
You gotta
this,
do it. You
we're
gotta
just
do
gonna
it.
go. We're going big. So
I think I'm the
bigger, go
last
home.
holdout that does not have TikTok.
I
on
don't
my
have
phone.
TikTok.
I know I
but
didn't
may have
either.
to, so.
I did not either.
There's two of us.
But now I've got a way that we can post to TikTok. So yeah, we're on there.
Have you seen
YouTube.
it where
We're on
they
every
fixed
platform
it now?
you can think of.
If you don't have the app, you can't watch the TikTok. Like if I send you a
Yeah,
TikTok,
yeah.
Oh, that aggravates
That
me.
is
They're-
that. People send me stuff, and I'd be like, oh my gosh, I can't see this.
You're gonna
I've
force
held out
me.
for a while, but I guess
Yeah.
I'll have to download it.
I know it.
You need to get
So-
an iPhone.
You need to hush. I'm not going.
Are we
to
gonna
an
have that
iPhone.
conversation now?
We're going to stop this right now.
Hey, iPhone's coming out
follow
with an
us,
update
Give
that's
us
helping.
likes. Give us 5-star likes if you will. We it's like
Yeah.
Mark Driscoll says, we always get ones. We need fives. Help us out. It takes money to do this, guys. We're not trying to make millions of dollars. It'd be great if we could, but we do need to keep going. So if you
wanna
want to
keep
get
the
on there and
message.
you want to donate or you want to buy some of the merchandise,
Oh.
that really, really helps us out.
We also have, which we're in the workings. We're working it all out. It's not completely finished yet, but our Patreon. We're
yes,
working on
yes.
we're working on
Patreon.
a Patreon so that you guys can have exclusive access to things. All the things that we have coming up, you're going to have exclusive access to those things. So be on the lookout for that when we put that out there as well.
And I'm going to quote Andy because, I hate that he's not here today, but, we're not called to be successful. We're called to be faithful. And we're hoping that we can stay faithful to what God wants us to do. Listen, we love all you guys. We're glad you tuned in. We'll see you next time.
Give a shout out to my wife. Love you, baby.